The Institute for the Study of Peak States presents the 5th International Psychoimmunology and Psychobiology Research Symposium. In this video today, a panel discussion with researchers, priorities, other major diseases in the testing pipeline.
So we have our panel here. So we've got Dr. Mary Palacier in Yakima, Washington in the US. She's our medical director at the Institute for the Study of Peak States. We have Dr. Kirsten Lykkegaard in Denmark. She's our director of research. We have Dr. Grant McFedridge. He is our founder of the organization, still a key member of our basic research team. And then we've got quite a few of our certified therapists who have gathered together in Denmark. So they can all wave. There's, I think, about eight or nine of them there. So most of our members of our applied research team are actually there at the gathering in Denmark. And my name is Shane McKenzie. I'm the CEO of the Institute for the Study of Peak States. And at the moment, I'm in Australia for the next couple of days. Okay. So let's kick this off. So as I said, the key theme for this is around kind of what's the priorities for research, what's in the pipeline, and I'm going to start with you, Mary, as our medical director and the leader of our applied research team. So there's lots of kind of resource management to work out what's our capacity to get this out, how do we prioritize. What are the key things on your mind around how we're working out what's our next priorities and how we're going to get more psychoimmunology medical treatments out into the world?
Thank you, Shane. Welcome everyone to the last day of the symposium. Hey, everybody in Denmark. Reflecting on your question, Shane, I think for me, thinking about diseases, not the six subcellular cases we were talking about earlier. Right now, we have traumatic brain injury, the TBI process, and the Lyme process are ready to go, as which is one of the reasons we did the two case studies on that. Not that we won't continue to be tweaking and improving, but really in order for any of our disease processes to continue through the pipeline, what we need is people with those problems. And so one of my highest priorities is finding collaborators out in the greater medical community who are working with those clients to collaborate and start to close some of these open loops that we have, as was shown yesterday when we were talking about TBI. There was a lot of questions about, have you looked at this? What about this? What about this other thing? Have you looked at that yet? And all I could think about is, no, but great question. And we absolutely want to. But in order to do that, we need a pipeline of clients to start with, to do the process with, and see where we're at, if some of the things that are now more theoretical, how those actually pan out. Hopefully at some point to do, in talking about the TBI process, what's going on in the scans, if we're getting CT scans, MRIs, PET scans, etc., functional MRIs, what is actually happening at that way of physically looking at the brain of what's going on, even though, symptoms are changing, but what's happening in the brain? So that's in TBI. And I mean, we have the case studies, the ones that you've already done, Shane, Life. We didn't say it yesterday, but Amy, actually, our Lyme's client, actually had TBI, so she's done that process as well. And we'll continue to do it as people come in. But again, my highest priority is finding people out there in medicine who are willing to collaborate with us, who are already doing some of the cutting edge work from the current medical paradigm, and trying to meet and work with them. So that's my highest priority. Excuse me.
Thanks, Mary.
Apparently I'm going to choke, so someone else can talk.
So Grant, so you've obviously had plenty of experience now around taking something from scratch. You know, there's a particular issue we want to resolve, whether it's a psychological disorder, medical disease. Having a model to kind of work out how to do that certainly makes that research and development time a lot quicker. But what are we talking about as far as lead time to start with a disease? How many resource hours are we talking about? How long do you think it'd take to get, if someone says, you know, we want, you know, so let's say HIV or something like this, something we haven't studied at all yet. How long would it take from scratch to actually get it out ready for safe, effective use for the clients?
Feel free to jump in, Kirsten. But I'm going to start by saying it's a moving slope for us, because as we develop the technology, things get quicker. As our understanding increases, it just gets better. But if I just think about what we're doing today, I'd say on average, it's a man-year to get a disease test treatment. In other words, before phase 1. And a man-year means you can divvy up the process among people, but it's a bit like also you can't take a 9-month baby and divvy it up among 3 women to make it happen quicker. Yeah, so there's a bit of a trade-off there, but if we just use management lingo, probably man-year. So given that our teams are small, that means priority is really important. You know,
exactly.
We have to focus on just a few things and make it work right. So I'm going to mention again the question of diseases of unknown etiology. If we can go to Wikipedia and look up what the pathogen is, it makes it so much quicker. We can use these technologies really focused. Mary, Kirsten, you want to say anything about that before I move on to diseases of unknown?
I would like to add actually that when we work on a disease, sometimes we need to take a D route. So what you're talking about with the man-year can be a man-year total, but it might be spread over some time, because what we need, we don't have. And so sometimes we get off to something else that actually somehow will lead to that. But this over here will take some time away from actually doing the disease. But in the overall, whatever we're doing over here will give input to moving this forward. And so if you could stop this train over here for a while and do this, and then get back on the train and then drive. If you measure all the time you spent on the train, then I would agree it's a man-year. But in reality, it could actually be when you think that, oh, we said a year, you know, so now a year has passed and we don't see the treatment ready. Why? You know, and that's because we do these things, that we go to other biological disorders to figure out something that is needed. Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was a great point, Kirsten. The other issue going on, and Lyme is a perfect example, but before I get to Lyme, one of the issues as far as getting to diseases and finding clients with those diseases, which we absolutely need to test whether it actually works, is that what is called a specific condition right now in the, you know, the CD code or in the DSM-10, etc., may actually be different. And for us, a classic example is autism and Asperger's.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, with the changes that have been made in the latest edition of diagnosis, Asperger's is on the autism spectrum. And for us, those are two completely different issues. If we didn't know that and we went in saying, okay, we're looking at autism without all the work that's already gone on, we're looking at two conditions trying to find a common cause. In Lyme's, this is going to be somewhat of an issue as we look. I talked a little yesterday. I really kind of brushed over it and said, there's a lot of controversy in the field. Now, there's a huge understatement if I ever saw one. But with Lyme's, the current medicine is quite unstable, and there's a lot of co-infections, Babiosa, Bartonella, et cetera, and as far as we know, what we have right now for our Lyme's is targeting the classic Lyme's pathogen that I talked about yesterday. If we have a Lyme's client who part of their symptom are due to these other issues, and we treat them, I mean, this will be an issue in the clinic as far as pay for results and such. We don't have a good way, and Kirsten and Grant, if you have a good way and you haven't shared it with me, let me know, of sorting out what symptoms are from which of those co-infections. I mean, the other possibility, and I'm just like, please, is is maybe there's, if you will, a lead pathogen, and that the current Lyme pathogen that we're targeting is kind of just hauling in the other ones along the way, and once you take care of that, they all go away. We have the same issue with traumatic brain injury, because it's the whole brain in people, and our brains are responsible for so many things. And the lovely colorful slide that you showed yesterday, Shane, with all those different symptoms, and that's just, you know, trying to categorize it in just a few of the things that can be a result of traumatic TBI. With our current treatment, we're not exactly sure you know, this part deals with when people have headaches or dizziness, and this part has to do with emotional. We don't totally have that tracked out. And is there something we don't know about that whole process, that there's a whole class of symptoms that there's something yet to be undiscovered, that those things that we don't know. And those are the things that are going to be unfolding. And as we go forward, that can make this manual. And I teased Grant, I said, well, it's a good thing you have women working with you, because we're going to get done faster. But it makes it complicated, because as we're going forward, we think, okay, this is what we think is going on, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, okay, there's the Grand Canyon we got to figure out how to get over, and we didn't even know it was there. So that's one of the large ongoing unknown issues, and why for me it's absolutely essential that we have clients coming through so we can start to test and see what happens.
So basically, she just made looking it up in Wikipedia and doing a solution much harder. Right? You can leave now. I don't want to hear this. Yeah, it's right, because people categorize things by symptoms, so they often lump them together. So you end up you're getting an elephant and a mouse in the same category because they both have tails. So the treatment you think is the same for the elephant and the mouse, where in reality you have to treat them differently. So it gets tricky that way. But let's move on from all the problems of the existing pathogen issue and go to diseases of unknown etiology. Well, the good news is our psychobiology models, that's where they shine. We can find the causes of diseases that nobody has figured out what the hell's going on, because we're working with the primary cell, and we can slowly derive what the cause is. The bad news is it can take us a long time to work from the symptoms to the cause. And the way we've been doing it is we eliminate potential origins to the thing, and then see if the symptoms are gone or not. That can be slow and frustrating. The good news is we've been doing this a long time, so nearly 20 years. And we've had, over those 20 years, we've slowly worked out what the causes of some diseases of unknown etiology were, like TBI, for example. We just never had a good psychoimmunology process to take advantage of it. So we're in an interesting position right now in our research group of ticking off the boxes. Yeah, we know what the cause of this is. We just never could do anything about it, and now we're ticking.
And now we can.
Now we can, yeah. But that doesn't mean some others are as easy. And Parkinson's is a good example. We're doing Parkinson's right now. We think we know what's the cause, but we can be surprised.
But it's very exciting, because as we go forward and things unroll, kind of unfold, all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, look at that. We didn't know that was an issue. And then we go down and dive down that rabbit hole and get to the bottom, and we come up with all this lovely knowledge and it just kind of opens up things and makes things clearer, not just for that condition, but for a whole lot of other things. And that's really what's been happening at the level we're working on. And for me, it's just super exciting, because it was like, oh my gosh, do you realize what this means? Like, oh.
Well, it was what Mary just said there was kind of what I meant with having to sidetrack onto finding something that you can get back on the track.
Yeah, to give a visual, yeah. Imagine research is a pinball game, and each little ding, ding, ding is a different disease, and we're often going boing, 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 like that.
Yeah.
So you just mentioned Parkinson's disease is a good example, because the model's in a good place for us to be able to make some discoveries around that fairly quickly. But also, like a lot of the things we're going to be researching, there's a number of different symptoms that someone who's been diagnosed with Parkinson's would have. So is there particular symptoms of Parkinson's that you feel like you've got the root cause of, or are you expecting that pretty much anyone who's been diagnosed with Parkinson's would actually have all of their symptoms disappear?
So again, just like Mary said, with putting things into one box called autism spectrum with Asperger's and autism. With Parkinson, there are several different, or there are two major symptoms, and not everyone has both. So we're sort of working with an overlap in how we solve the disease. If you have both, we need to do two things. If you have one, you can probably get away with just tracking down the one.
I think for me, one of the unknowns we still have in Parkinson's is we're not sure about, sometimes in Parkinson's you can have psychiatric symptoms that show up in a certain subset. And since we haven't worked within any of our test clients, that hasn't been an issue. For me, at least, that's an unknown, whether that's going to be something additional or that's going to be covered by what we already know. So it's a little thing to be determined as we move forward with Parkinson's.
So, with disease of unknown etiology, can we figure out what the hell the cause is? Because there's potential causes that throw us off track, and eventually we might get to it, or it may be really hard to solve. What about once we have a potential treatment? How long does that take then to get it to the point where we have something in our clinics?
Well, for me, I'm going to sound like a broken record here. Part of the issue is people with the actual condition that we can test on and see what happens when we take our model and what we think we know about it and, you know, have it meet head on with someone who's been diagnosed with that condition or disease, and what happens to their symptoms. And the more, again, why I mean, to me it's absolutely essential having more people coming through, is if we're having to, you know, wait and we have a client here and then we learn out some things and then we have to wait for another client there, that makes it take longer as opposed to having a larger pool to pull from.
So if Shane puts on his management hat, if it takes us a man year to derive a potential treatment, how many man years to get it from there out to a paying customer? Like paying patient, I mean.
That's a good question. I mean, I guess that's what we're working on at the moment, as far as getting physical clinics set up, building some of those medical networks, actually finding a physical clinic when we've got such limited financial resources to actually pay for the clinic accommodation. But I'd imagine what will happen is once we start, it's obviously going to take a lot more, a bit like what you're saying. Once the model's in place, it gets quicker and quicker. Once we have some foundations in place, we've got a few treatments out there, then the time to actually get that rolling out for a new treatment coming through is obviously going to be a lot quicker.
How many man years do you guess for the second part? I want to give people a feeling for how hard it is. Why can't we just do 40 diseases in an afternoon? How many man years does it take to get it from prototype to release?
So say that you have proof of principle. That in essence means that whatever we're thinking about is causing a disease, and then we do our treatment in one person and it resolves everything. That's sort of our proof of principle. And of course you could say, was that just because the sun was shining that day? You know, so we actually need more than one, but we call that, I mean, that is like, wow, whatever our model, and it's like turning on an iPhone for the first time and you see that it works. Something went right, otherwise that would not have happened. So it's not, in our eyes, coincidence, even though, you know, whatever people might say. So we need more than one. So we will have in that phase, and that's what Mary was saying, if we have, and for some diseases we do have some people lined up, but if we don't, then it'll add to the time frame of that. But just imagine that we have the next and the next and the next. So that whole testing from having the proof of principle to actually feeling very confident this is working, and then taking it from there.
How long?
So I don't know, half a year? A year?
A man year? I'm thinking a couple of man years.
Yeah, a couple of man years, probably, till we can say this is a solid working process that, you know, we can.
So
that's not duration, right? That's person years. So a lot of that's a lot of people in some quite intensive periods, particularly when you get to the phase 2 safety testing part. So it's not necessarily a lot of time in months, but very resource intensive during that time. Pretty much the whole organization's working on just that one phase at that time.
So that's where the priority comes in, because you can say, oh, this and this and that would be nice to have, but if you line them up in sequential, so not in parallel, because we're only as many as we are, that would take, you know, it's going to be a wait line of diseases. At the same time, like both Mary and I were talking about, you jump, or you even said pinball game, that we go in the, you can say, initial phase before we really have the proof of principle. We go from disease to disease to learn things. We can focus on them for a long time sometimes, and sometimes for shorter.
Yeah, that's the oh shit factor. We don't know what we're doing. And then we have to stop and do some more model development.
So we've kind of painted the picture. This, while the model helps us actually get R&D out to real clients, is incredibly quick compared to drug research. And Kirsten, you can obviously talk to that from your background. I mean, how do you see that differing around how long it would take, starting from scratch in drug research to getting it out to how quickly it is, given we've got a more of a model-based approach to it?
Oh, it's much quicker with what we do. If you think about from the time of an idea in medical research until you actually get onto the market, it's somewhere between 10 and 20 years, depending on things along the way.
And how many people?
And hundreds of people.
So man years.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
And I want to say, how
drug-
much money? What's the budget?
No. Yeah, and then that probably depends.
Oh, they're not
on
volunteer? Wait a
on
minute.
lots of things. But if you think about medicine and the scaling that is possible with a pill or an injection, so much different, I guess, than ours. But in man years, ours is so much quicker, and hopefully we can scale at some point.
And we can solve things that they have no clue on. It's quite remarkable in that way.
So we've painted this picture that while it's very quick relatively to other medical research, it is resource intensive, particularly for us, given we're a relatively small organization, right?
I would say that the COVID vaccine was an exception.
That's true.
Although you could say that the research for that had been going on for decades before that. If they had not done that, that could not have been done so quickly. It was remarkable.
But it was a bit like what we do with research. The whole world pretty much just focused all of their attention on one thing for a while, right? So, so it's priorities become really important to us because we've got limited resources and it's resource intensive in a short period of time to get out each treatment. So what's the kind of decision criteria that you use for determining what's the next priority?
Well, for me, one of the things that's really going to help is if we have more resources. More resources is always better. And as Grant talked about, at some point, he brought up the issue, actually he threw it in my lap, about the medicine and psychology issue or divide. And the fact that out there, if you talk to just about any other medical researcher, they do not know that we exist. And so part of that, and there was a question about this, I can't remember if it was Evan or someone else talked about, we need the miracle cure and make the blind see, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. For us, that disease, when we talk about it, we're talking about priorities, is type 1 diabetes. And the reason is it's unlike TBI and unlike Lyme disease and unlike some of these other issues where the water is muddier. That one, number one, there's a lab test for it, or there's multiple lab tests as far as testing sugar, testing insulin levels, etc. So this is always nice when you can draw some blood and go, this is there or this isn't there. It's I'm making this simpler than it actually is, and Kirsten having worked for an organization that dealt in insulin and such, but in to me, it's the closest of kind of an on and off switch that you have in a disease, because if someone with type 1 diabetes who is truly insulin dependent, if they do not have insulin, they will die because it's necessary in order for a person to survive. And so if we can change that, the ramifications for the patient are so incredible, who's dealing with that lifelong condition. Not 100%, but 99% of the time, people with type 1 diabetes don't reverse that condition on their own. Not that it has never happened, but not very typical. So if we can start to do that regularly, my thought is someone is going to notice that. And well, I mean, all hell might break loose. I don't know what's going to happen, but it seems like that would be a shift in the landscape. So for me, testing type 1 diabetes and coming up for a treatment with that is very high on my priority list. And now we're back to people with that condition who are willing to work with us. So that's one of my high priorities. And the rest of the team.
So there's going to be
silent.
some other criteria. So that's clearly one around, what's going to give us the credibility from a medical perspective that this treatment is real. What have been some of the other criteria you've used in the past or that you think will actually use in the future?
I think there's several factors that kind of come into that, because one is the suffering of a disease, and also when in life does a disease hit and how many people. And for me, it's also, I think, the biology of the disease in a sense that might contribute to more knowledge also. I mean, these are various factors that can play in. And I'm not saying which one is the most. But
well, here's a fox in the henhouse comment. Yeah.
I'd like you to do that, Grant.
Yeah. We are volunteers, and I know I've personally sunk all my resources and money into this project. We have to have something that's financially viable. In other words, there's literally tens of thousands of diseases we could be doing, like jock itch and toenail fungus, and it goes on and on.
I think what
I was just saying it's important.
No, I think what matters is that actually it matters for the patient as well, or the client, that it's not just, that wasn't much, I had an okay life and this changes. And I mean, it's okay to have incremental, but where I think it's really where you see people, they have something and they suffer from a disease and there is no cure, and to be able to give them life back, I think is for me that's very, very meaningful.
But again, if
you can't
start up,
if you can't have your own potatoes and bread for your living, is that what you're saying? Or
well, we're doing this out of our own pockets, and
yes,
we have to start earning a living. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah. Which one?
I'm just thinking a little bit like
Come up
Mary.
closer to the
can
microphone.
you hear him? Or,
Not very well.
or just come.
No, right here.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, I guess
you can sit in
here.
front of the screen there and talk because the microphone is here. Can you hear him here?
I'll try here. Is that okay for you guys?
Yeah, that's better.
I'm thinking just a little bit like Mary. If we can do the type 1 diabetes, then we have a solid proof of concept. Maybe we're not earning the golden goose egg here, but we have proof of concept, and from that we can maybe go for more diffuse kind of diseases where it could be this and it could be the other thing, the more severe stuff. So we have the proof of concept, and then we can go to Lyme or TBI or whatever. Facts,
Speaking of priority, we haven't even touched on what one is. You see this, guys? I'm hot on, yes, that. So anyway, back to financially viable. There's a lot of diseases that we could be doing, but if in the short term they can't make a significant cash in the clinics, I'm out of money, so we have to do stuff that pays. So that actually cuts down the list of diseases that we can that we should be focusing on. Now, the truth is, we'll focus on some diseases anyway, either because somebody in the crew has them and we want to help, or simply because they're fascinating biologically. But, I think, Shane, you're the business guy here. You want to comment on that?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Like every, maybe not every, but some of the famous kind of worldwide organizations that have made a big impact in the world, like Apple or Microsoft, they started in the garage, and until eventually you had to become a serious business to actually get it out worldwide. We're in the same situation. We're still in the garage. We're all got volunteered research staff, and we're all kind of working from home and all this sort of stuff. But as we've talked about, releasing these medical disease treatments in a few months' time, we want, and we believe clients are going to expect a physical clinic. We've got to be earning enough money to pay for that sort of stuff.
Yeah. I'll give you an example. Once we have cash flow, then we could start focusing on less financially viable diseases, but ones that matter to us for other reasons. For example, Alzheimer's. Pretty sure I know what causes Alzheimer's. It'd be nice to roll that out, but we just don't have the resources. And oddly enough, it's not really a financially viable disease. You'd think it would be, but just isn't. And that's sad. Yeah.
Grant and I have an ongoing disagreement about this. So his conclusion is based on a very small N of people asking. So, but we haven't looked out there. One of the issues about the financial viability, and by the way, I'm not in my garage. I've made it to the basement. I'm in the basement. But is research funding. So in certainly, for different drugs, that's just a huge, big pharma. I mean, we're talking, incredible amounts of money that goes into that. But for a lot of other diseases and the research that's ongoing, there are research studies and funding organizations, whether that's governments that are providing that or individual foundations and institutions, speaking of Parkinson's, like Michael J. Fox, that provide funds for research teams to do that kind of work. And we don't, as an organization, really tick the boxes of organizations that get those kinds of funds. So that's, we've applied for some and we've never hit the jackpot on that one. So that's as far as doing pure research and looking at some specific diseases would be a lot easier if we could get some funding for it. Now, sometimes when I'm dreaming or thinking, I'm wondering, well, can we be, innovative about that? And yes, it's typical that you'll have, funding opportunities and you apply for a grant, and it's up to these large organizations and whatever priorities they have and however they are making those decisions, whether you get the funding or not. But there's been an interesting shift for me in all kinds of things, but in medicine, diseases, with the onset of the World Wide Web and the global community. And what I've seen happen as a physician, there's a lot more power in the community and of people and families of people who have these various diseases. And when a community rallies around a disease, whether that was, I mean, this happened in cancer. If you look at the story of cancer and some of the things that have happened in that, there were multiple times that there were people that got a community of people that then had power to push various things through. That can really change something. And it's always been curious to me. I was like, well, what if we, just kind of told people, well, if you want us to research a disease, let's do some crowdfunding for it. That, I don't know if that would work, but for example, in Alzheimer's. So if a certain number of people said, okay, we're willing to donate to for you to research Alzheimer's because that's important to us, or whatever the various diseases are. There's certainly some diseases that not very many people have. They're kind of called orphan conditions that it's hard to get funding. It's hard for, I don't know, Kirsten want to comment on that, but to get drug funding because they're not big bucks. But if you have a very powerful community behind that says, yes, we're willing to put our resources into bringing that to the front of the line. I don't know that that's really a question we've really thrown out there, to our community or the, 2 or 3 people who tend to follow us out there in the world.
Well, you might have planted an idea.
I want to go back a step and you've got a basement? Shit.
We're on the 2nd floor.
We've got a few questions. So let's go to those. So a couple of them about us commenting on particular diseases. So someone's asked, and people wouldn't recognize this as a disease, but we've actually done some research on this recently. What's the latest update on minimal sleep state? Is there anyone in the applied research team that can kind of add to that conversation, or you want to, Kirsten or Grant?
All I'm going to say is it's 11. It is almost midnight here, and I'm tired.
So we haven't cracked it yet.
But I would say it's one of those where we get off the train to do something so that we can learn something to get back on the train.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's all you're going to say at the moment?
Yeah, I think so. You
Okay.
want to say more?
Well, actually, it's a spin-off of chronic fatigue syndrome. And I
So
think
that was the chronic fatigue.
yeah, I think we need
And-
to solve both simultaneously.
Yeah, and also for our own understanding, like we talked about yesterday, you might have a disease that's narrow here, but you want to have the base foundation of what's going on around that, not just that narrow slot. You need to know more. And that's the more here.
Yeah, we were gonna hopefully have a talk on chronic fatigue today, I think.
Yep.
Except that we didn't get far enough in the research. We'd just been too busy.
So it's obviously been a recent priority. We're making progress and we're hopeful we will crack that one soon.
Yeah, fascinating disease.
That's one of the ways to address our resource management is just have all the volunteers sleep less so we've got more hours to get from them.
That was our thinking. That was our
Wait a
thinking.
This is definitely a management.
Well, it's
Go slaves, go.
But we have new manipulation fungus that doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
Now, the interesting thing about minimal sleep, apparently I'm going to say something, is when we started, never really thought about it, there's minimal sleep as a term isn't really out there, but there is a condition that's called short sleeping. So this is something that's known in the world, and there's actually researchers that are looking at that. So that when I figured that out, it was like, oh, we can talk about this in the larger community because they have a term for it. There's already people looking at it. there's no sense that that's something that people can develop. Either people are short sleepers or they're not. There's actually a list you can look at famous
there's
people
a
in the
list of
world who have
famous-
been short
Yeah.
sleepers, but
Who's
so
on
I
that
guess-
list? It's fascinating.
Yeah, Margaret Thatcher was on it. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
but
Yeah. So I guess for those that don't know what we're talking about with minimal sleep state, we're talking about having a state of consciousness where you only sleep 3 or 4 hours a day and you're fully well rested, high functioning on 3 or 4 hours of sleep all the time, which pretty much everyone outside of conventional health would say that's not a good thing, because everything says people aren't getting enough sleep, which is actually true for their current state of consciousness. But this would actually be highly functioning on 3 or 4 hours sleep every day.
Mhm.
Okay.
There is a downside, however, as we discovered the hard way.
For some
no.
people, for some people.
Some people, yeah, they just don't know what to do with the extra time, and everybody's asleep and they're wide awake and ready to go. So for a type A personality, perfect. For others, you can only do so many video games.
Yeah. So Naomi was asking about how about asthma? Now, I don't know exactly where in the conversation she actually asked that. So I don't know whether she's asking about what's our thinking of that as a potential priority. Have we done any research on it? Where does it fit as far as, is it potentially a money making? I don't know when she asked the question as to what the context is from that. But any thoughts on asthma?
Kirsten, you're on the way. You can come back. You've got the interface.
sorry. Shane, just a little logistic. You need to send. I send you a text. You need to send Georg a invite on email, please.
Oh, yeah.
This is for our next speaker.
So asthma, I haven't worked on it. Have you,
No.
Mary?
no, but there's so asthma, there's a lot of people with asthma. I don't know what the statistics are, but there's a hell of a lot of people with asthma in the world. The interesting thing for me about asthma is it's already known that there's a lot of there's a lot you can change in someone with asthma by just looking at the emotional context of that. So it's already known that that helping people decrease stress and can help people with asthma symptoms. So there's a lot of in alternative and complementary therapies going at it from not just giving people drugs, which are amazing when they work. My only thought about it is, one of the things that comes up over and over in our research at a primary cell level is the concept of suffocation. So my sense is that there's probably going to be something about that in there, but we haven't looked at it specifically. And again, this would be a perfect example of, is there a huge asthma community out there who goes, no, we want a result? Is like, okay, well, we get some funding for it. We could put some resources behind that.
In short, we haven't looked at it with the new way of doing psychology.
And also, is it, at least in short term, financially viable? I mean, people have a solution, even if it's not a great one. I think focusing on stuff where there's no solution seems to be, and a significant benefit seems to be a better choice. I would love, in the few minutes we have left, to open it up to what other people think our priorities should be. Julian, I'm not sure we're going to include you on that one.
That's a good question. Yeah.
I would love to hear what other people, because, there's only a handful of us. We don't think of everything.
Amy?
So back to the Alzheimer's, I do want to say to Grant, people are paying where I live $10,000 to $15,000 a month to stay in assisted living or a facility. Seems like you should be able to get a pretty hefty sum to get them out of that facility, because it's so expensive that there's no social services that pays the entire amount.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah, you'd think so. The problem is those funds are slotted into a system, you know, and we're looking at private money. They have to be able to pay us, and the government isn't willing to do that.
Yeah, that's certainly how we would start. It obviously makes sense given the credibility issue that conventional medicine and therefore governments are not going to pay any attention to us in the start. So it's definitely going to be individual private funding to start with. But long-term goal, once we demonstrate this and we've got pay for results, it's a no-brainer return on investment for governments and private health insurance to actually be using this approach to healthcare.
Well, what I meant was a lot of these families are putting most of the bill for that because Medicaid, the federal government is not paying very much. Their Social Security check is what, $1,500, $2,000? And then if Medicaid covers a portion of that, but 10 to 15,000 is a lot. And so families are putting the bill for a good portion of that.
Well, I would like to solve that disease. My grandmother had it. And I'd love to see that eliminated, but you know, we also have to pay the bills. The U.S. is kind of unique in that respect. You look at other countries, and that's all into the system already. Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody else? Favorite disease? Come on up.
Now, just on perspective though, if you already had unlimited funding now, what would your focus?
They know what my focus would be.
I know it, yeah.
Well,
Go for it.
Pina coladas on the beach. Yeah. With a lounge chair.
Is that a disease?
And a little umbrella in the glass. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's Beauty Way.
Kirsten.
Yeah, I mean, this, when we talk disease, that's not in the category that people's minds think. So, and that doesn't solve diseases per se, but it makes such a difference in living life. It makes it worth living.
Yeah. Quality of life being the label. Yeah, and I agree. That's why we started the Institute, is for the Beauty Way. And it turned out it's blocked by pathogen, which meant we had to solve the pathogen problem. So, yeah. Any others?
So the challenge with having unlimited funding is that it helps the latter part of the process. Like as far as once we've got something out to the public, having unlimited resources to do marketing and build physical clinics around the world, that would be where it would be most helpful. But the problem we have is we could pay the three of you, Mary, Kirsten, and Grant, $1 million each, and the research isn't going to happen any quicker, right? This is the problem we've got, is that there is a bottleneck in the research pipeline where we rely on just the three of you to make the breakthroughs that are required for a new disease treatment. So
Could we test that? That is a hypothesis that I want to test, Shane.
Oh God.
Yeah, pay us $1 million and let's see if we can up our
Productivity.
Throughput productivity.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, crank that baby out in 6 months.
The carrot will work. You can be bought.
Exactly.
Anyone else favorite disease? Now's your chance.
Yep, last chance. We've got 1 minute left. Last chance.
So, I want Julian here. For me, it's HIV. So I know they are making good improvement in finding like a cure for that or something, but I prefer a model for that. So
You, your French accent is a little hard for me. What was
HIV?
HIV?
Yeah.
Okay.
Treatment for that. Yeah.
Okay.
But even any sexual transmitted disease, any disease like that, because I mean it's human to have sex, and those diseases are very like an issue. So.
Anyone else? Now's your chance.
Yeah,
Speak up.
Evan, I'm just looking, Evan is suggesting people with paraplegia from so spinal cord injuries. This is, someone brought that up yesterday, maybe it was Evan, and was asking about the TBI process. Again, we haven't tested that. One of my personal personal projects that I really want to see done is speaking of TBI, people with such severe TBI that they have it's like one step up from coma. They're in a state of consciousness, minimal state of consciousness, and
And if
so
anyone,
that's something that I would like to solve, and we've actually worked on that some. So that that would be, it's on my bucket list.
Mary, I would like to add something. If anyone knows some like people in the field of sport, like hockey players that have TBI, that's very common in sport place in Canada at least. They got TBI, so maybe it would be great for them, making great publicity also, and like they feel better.
Yeah, well, if anyone has an inside track to the world of boxing and American football or rugby or Australian football or all those sports where they bash their heads in, and they want to fund some more research in TBI, hey, here we are. I'm going for $1 million salary because I want to know if that'll make me more productive.
There's definitely professional sports people getting medically retired because of continual TBIs.
Yeah.
I think we should mention that it looks like the TBI is a done deal, at least at the present time.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not just research. This thing is working.
Yep. Okay. Well, thanks everyone for participating in the panel. So we're now ready for our next speaker.
Thank you for watching. For more information, please visit www.sacoimmunology.com.au.